The letter had yellowed with time, its edges curled like the petals of an old rose pressed between the pages of a forgotten book. Maeve kept it in the drawer beside her bed, not out of forgiveness, but because some wounds never close and some stories refuse to end. Every few years, she would open it again, trace the ink with trembling fingers, and wonder if he ever regretted it. If he thought of her, if he looked at the sea and remembered the promises he made. He had vanished like mist, leaving only that letter behind. No forwarding address, no explanation, only heartbreak. And yet, halfway across the world, a man named Liam Donnelly stared out a window in Buenos Aires, letter in hand, and whispered to a ghost of a life he'd abandoned, "I'm sorry." In a small coastal town in Ireland, Liam Donnelly had everything: a loving wife, 2 spirited children, and a steady job as a carpenter. But he also had a restless heart. Even as he kissed his son goodnight, or held his wife Maeve under the covers, something inside him whispered, "This isn't all." One summer, a tourist group from Argentina passed through, and among them was Camila Torres, an artist with a fire in her eyes and laughter like music. Liam built a small bench for her sketching spot near the cliffs, and they began talking. Their connection was instant, and by the end of that summer, something in Liam had shifted irreversibly. They would meet under the gray skies by the sea, where Camila sketched the cliffs and Liam carved tiny sculptures for her to take home. They spoke about art and family and the strange ache of wanting more than what life had offered them. He didn't plan it, but when Camila returned home, Liam followed. He left nothing but a letter behind, just a few hurried lines. "Maeve, I'm sorry. I have to go. I can't explain, but I need to find something I lost. Please tell the kids I love them." He boarded the flight to Buenos Aires with nothing but a backpack and the hope that he could outrun the shame pressing against his ribs. Buenos Aires was unlike anything Liam had known. The colors, the chaos, the beauty, it swallowed him whole. He married Camila under purple jacaranda trees and helped her open a gallery. They drank Malbec on rooftops and danced in the kitchen barefoot. For the first time in years, Liam felt alive. Camila introduced him to her world, a place of brushstrokes and poetry readings, of late-night debates and street parades. She taught him Spanish, laughed when he stumbled, and painted him into the background of her canvases like a secret she never wanted to lose. But guilt is a long shadow. At night, he dreamed of his daughter Aoife's freckles and his son Connor's laugh. He imagined Maeve reading his letter over and over, her heart breaking every time. Camila never asked much about Ireland. She sensed it was sacred ground, buried and sealed. He tried to write to his children. The letters stayed unsent. Years passed. Liam became a father again, this time to a little boy named Raphael. He loved Raphael fiercely, poured into him everything he had failed to give before. But it didn't erase the ache. On Raphael's 10th birthday, Liam stood in the backyard watching the boy chase fireflies and wondered if Connor liked the stars. One rainy evening, while browsing an online news archive, he saw it. Local woman Maeve Donnelly published his memoir, The Man Who Vanished. His heart sank. He ordered the book. Every word was like a wound. She had written about the pain, the betrayal, and how she rebuilt her life, not with hate, but with quiet endurance. She never remarried. She never stopped telling their kids he once loved them, even when they stopped believing. Camila saw him reading it at night, tears wetting the pages. "You still love her," she whispered. "I don't know," he said. "I just know I hurt people who didn't deserve it." 10 years after he left, Liam returned to Ireland. The town had changed, new shops, fewer boats, but the cliffs were the same. Maeve met him on a rainy afternoon, wearing the same coat she'd had the day he vanished. "You look older," she said flatly. "I am," he replied. They walked. He apologized, not just for leaving, but for staying gone. For not writing. For being a coward. "I thought about hating you," she said. "But hate takes energy. I had 2 kids to raise. Do they hate me? They don't know you." He stayed in town for 3 weeks. He met his children, grown now. Connor was cold. Aoife cried. Slowly they talked. Not about reconciliation, but about understanding. He learned Connor worked with rescue animals and hadn't spoken of his father in over a decade. Aoife was an illustrator living in Galway who had named one of her book characters Liam, then changed it. Maeve, now a teacher, had become something steady and strong, forged by time and sorrow. They had dinner one night, just the two of them, and afterward, she walked home alone, leaving him standing in the street. He went back to Argentina, not expecting redemption, but grateful he was allowed to say what he needed to say. Camila passed away unexpectedly 5 years later. Cancer. Quiet and cruel. After her funeral, Liam found a box under their bed. Dozens of letters he'd written to Maeve and never sent. Camila had kept them all, tied in blue ribbon. There were letters for birthdays, Christmases, apologies, and updates. One was addressed to Aoife when she turned 16. Another, to Connor, in case I never return. He returned to Ireland once more, older and alone. This time, not to ask for forgiveness, but to live near his children. He bought a small house by the sea and began writing again, letters, this time that he sent. Some went unanswered, some didn't. One morning, Aoife came to visit. They sat on the cliffs where he'd once met Camila. She didn't say much, just held his hand. Weeks later, Connor knocked on his door. They went fishing. Didn't catch anything. But they laughed once, and Liam counted that as everything. And then one day, a short note from Maeve arrived too. You finally found what you were looking for? I hope so. And Liam, standing at the window with the sea beyond, whispered, Yes, I think I did. Epilogue. Liam passed away in his sleep one quiet morning, years later, a journal resting open on his chest. In it were final letters, not only to Maeve, Aoife, and Connor, but also to Raphael, to Camila, and even to the sea. His funeral was small. Aoife read one of his poems. Connor placed a wooden carving of a lighthouse on the grave, one Liam had made in his final months. Maeve stood back from the crowd, holding a single white rose, and whispered a goodbye no one heard. What did you feel about the story? Did Liam deserve redemption? Could you forgive someone like him? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share what resonated with you, or what didn't. Everyone carries their own tide of memory, grief, and hope. Let's talk about it.